And good morning, everyone, and welcome back. It is the Vine Morning Show. Here we are on a Monday morning. I'm Mark, along with our good friend Lora Greathouse, and we welcome those that are watching our program this morning or this afternoon, actually, when we will play that back on our Vine YouTube channel, or whenever we can play it back on YouTube channel, and on Sunday afternoons on TV Cable Channel 15. We welcome you this morning as Lora is with us on this beautiful Monday morning. And Lora, good morning and welcome in.
Good morning to you, Mark.
A lot of things. First off, do you have a nice weekend?
Yeah, it was good. Just zooming right along. What about you?
I did. Not bad at all. It was eventful, to say the least, and but I'm feeling a lot better.
Yes, good.
But a lot of things going on, and especially this week, a lot of people are paying attention to things that are going on.
Yes.
And where do we begin this morning?
You know, I can't wait to get to that because there's something going on every single day, and it's alarming, and it needs to be discussed, and we're not getting it very many places, so I think that's why Mark and I feel like we need to pass it on because not many people are even knowing about these things. But I wanted to touch on, are you successful first? Whenever I come here on Mondays, I often use things that have happened to me in my life, and I kind of feel like if I get a good lesson, if something happens to me and I feel like it will benefit others, I want to bring that to the table. And I had a call the other night from a dear friend, and the conversation began to take a sharp right turn. And you know how that happens, and it happens quickly.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Okay, well, by the end of the conversation, and the conversation didn't end on a bad note, I just, want to say that, but towards the end of the conversation, there was a strike given to me and my brother, my preacher brother, and my sister, all three of us that go to the same church. And it was kind of because of that. And the comment was made that we are uneducated and we should have gotten an education, but we were too lazy and not driven enough to do it. And it was very embarrassing that us kids had never, my brother and my sister and myself had never gotten a degree. And, it pierces you for a moment. And if I had been 25 instead of 45, it might have affected me different. But, the older we get, the less, we kind of get the skin of a rhinoceros, don't we?
Sure. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that.
Really do. Yeah. And when you're in the ministry, you better have a tough skin because people are going to scathe you. They're going to stomp on you. They're going to scuff you, as my mother would say. And, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to cry and regret or, mope around and think, oh, they're right. Or are you going to flip it and think, okay, what does God think about this? What is God? Am I successful in God's eyes? Is my brother successful in God's eyes? Is my sister successful in God's eyes? And I'd have to say, yes.
I want to, if I can stop you right there.
Please.
And just interject in something. The person that chastised you, so to speak, for no degree. I know a lot of people, and I'm sure a lot other people know people that have gone on and got their degree, and guess what? They don't put that degree to use.
Yeah.
And a lot of them say, I'm going where God leads me.
Yes.
And I have had so many people tell me that before.
That's good. That's really, really good.
I wanted to put that in because I think that needs to be known.
It does. And I'm glad that you said that. Whenever we look at ourselves in the mirror, what is it that we see? How do we see ourselves? And who are we? And, I believe, and I really believe out of this person, a lot of them getting their degree was out of fear. I really do. And for self-esteem. And I think having a degree is great.
Absolutely. Right.
I went to college. I didn't finish, and I wished I had. But do I feel like I am led to do that now? No. No, I really don't. I feel like for the moment I'm where God wants me, degree or no degree, He doesn't care. But I do feel like sometimes people have to have that degree, that certificate, those letters or whatever by their name to give them value. And I just want us to look at, if you've got a degree, great. If you're feeling led to get a degree, great. But if you're not, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay.
That's very true. Yeah.
And this person also dogged on a couple people that I know, they're sisters. And, just like that, they just did nothing with their lives. And I have such a totally different perspective. And it's a God-given perspective. I look at these two ladies, and they are some of the finest people I've ever met in my life. They are workers, not sitters. They are workers in the church. And the first person that needs help, they are right there to help them. And they're just such fine, godly women. And I see them in a totally different light. And I'm thinking, where are we getting our value? Are we getting our value from God? And Habakkuk 2:2 says, write it down. Write your vision down. If you have a vision for your life or whatever, you can write that down and you can flourish with it, but you don't have to have a title to make you important. And there was a couple scriptures I was going to read that kind of backs us up. Mark, this is my favorite scripture in the whole wide world, is Matthew 16:26 through 27. And it's about, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but forfeits his soul? And it's so true. We could run around and we could just be the greatest. We could be the CEO or the vice president or the president, or we could be the top one, and we could step on everybody in our company to get to the top of the ladder. What does it matter if you're going to burn in hell for eternity? It matters not. And whenever we end up in hell, and heaven forbid, it's not going to matter where we lived, who we were married to, who we were dating, who was our fiance, what kind of rings we had on our finger. It's not going to matter. Success is not weighed by that. And I just felt like if anybody out there has been kicked in the shins, punched in the gut, and made to feel like you are a nobody, you are nothing, just because you don't have a master's degree or a doctorate or whatever it may be, you have value in the kingdom. The people that are really settling are the people that are choosing not to lead the life that God had mapped out for them. That's the losers.
And the thing is, and I think a lot of people forget, the things here on earth are just temporary.
That's right.
And we make so much of things being materialistic. And I know people that have, they shop at certain stores, they wear certain clothing, and there's nothing wrong with that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying anything negative about that.
Right.
But that's what they focus on when they don't focus on the big picture, and the big picture's of the man upstairs.
That's right. And I'm glad that you said that. I have a friend that, it's all about her, and she looks beautiful from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet. I mean, toenails and little toe rings and adorable clothes. But you can look in her eyes and just see she's so sad and she's so empty. And she's really got, Satan has her believing that she's got to suck up all of her time for herself and fluff and pamper herself and buy all these things and in order to make her feel good about herself. Whereas if she would get her toes a little bit dirty for somebody else, if she get out to a nursing home or get out of bed on Sunday mornings and get to a church and teach some dirty little Southdown kids, or, do something for God, that's where your value comes. That's when you feel good about yourself. That's when you can look in the mirror. And Mark, I could look in the mirror and see a chubby and broken veins and silver stretch marks down my sides and toes that look like crazy. I could look in the mirror and see all of those things, and they would be true. They would be true. But I choose to see myself as a godly woman that is growing in Him every single day, and those things don't matter to me anymore. I mean, I want to look nice, but if I don't, so what? So what if I have a rip in my shirt and gray hair sticking out everywhere? So what? I'm going to heaven someday, and I want to take you with me, and I don't need to spend all this time with my feet soaking in a bucket, getting all purty and getting my hair streaked and running to every, like you said, name brand store. I don't even know what the name brands are, to tell you the truth, and I'm glad glad.
Right.
I'm glad I don't have to have that stuff. My brother drives an old beat-up truck, and it just makes me proud that he drives that old beat-up truck. He drives it so somebody else could have better. He's constantly giving his money away, giving his time away, and he doesn't need that to give him value. But some people, they have to have a $60,000 truck to roll around in, or they think they're a nobody. That's sad. We are not gaining our value from those things, because one of these days, all that we're going to have is what we gave to God.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. And, you know, again, you know, it's not about the things, again, like you say, and I say and agree, you know, if people want that, that's fine. That's their choice. But there are those that want to focus on God, and that's the main thing that we need to focus on. And you learn that the older you get.
Yes, you do.
You really do. I mean, you know, you see that. You know, I've known people that have been well off, that have had a great life and stuff, and when they leave, they're left with nothing. They don't take that with them.
No, not a bit of it. You're right.
Not a bit of it with them.
You're right. Yeah, you know, we can get into that boat so simply and so easily in this country, because every commercial is just flashing at us. You need this, you need that. You'll feel better, you'll look better, you'll smile better, you'll be greater if you have all these things. And you're right, there's nothing wrong with them. And if you've got the money to do that and share with others, wonderful. But I worry most about the people that are cheating God, cheating their families, racking it up on the credit cards to look that certain way when it really doesn't matter. It doesn't make the person. That gives you no credibility in my eyes. It gives you no credibility in God's eyes to look pretty.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But success is measured in God. Success is measured, you know, our Bible says he who wins souls is wise. That right there shows me that God thinks that's a successful thing if you're leading people to the Lord. And if we spend that much time, and I've been guilty, instead of doing foo-foo or silly things, if we spend this time in His Word and in prayer and giving to other people, give. You want to have a life with meaning, give it away. Give your life to other people, not hoarding it all for yourself.
You know, I talked to someone one time who he was talking about that, and he said, you know what? He said, you know, I like to have certain things, and I like to be able to do this, like to have certain things, but he said the most benefit that I've gotten, and this is the older he has become, he realizes this now. He says, you know what? He says, but I had a chance to minister to a young 20-year-old one time who was on the verge of suicide, and he came to him asking him, what can I do? What can I turn to? I'm not succeeding where I think I should be succeeding. And the first thing he said to him was, son, where is your heart? And he says, where do you mean, where is my heart? It's in my chest. And he says, no, that's not what I'm talking about. Where is your relationship with Christ? And he says, I don't really have a relationship with Christ. So he began to talk to him and tell him he gave his testimony.
Good.
And that kid was touched by his testimony. He went to start going to his church. And they started going to his church. He became saved. He became baptized and is active in his church now. Wow. And this is 5 years later. Wow. He met a girl through the church. They are married now.
Wow.
And it's
Good.
all because, and he said anything in the world I could have had, but he said, that means the most to me in my life, in my stage of life where I am right now.
That's good.
He says, and you know it, he says, because you feel the Holy Spirit saying, that's my son.
Yes.
And he told me that, and it was like, that gave me cold chills, because you're exactly right. Nothing matters in this life. It's only temporary, but we can win other souls for Christ. That puts a crown in your hat.
Oh, man, that's so great. And that didn't cost one thin dime.
No, not at all.
Nothing.
Not at all.
And when that man comes to the end of his life, that will be one of the highlights. That he shared with somebody else, and he gave life to someone else and could have very well saved the kid's life. Well,
he even mentioned, he said, you know, that young man at 20 years old came to me. God put him in my path for a reason. And he says, I'm not one to talk much about faith or anything like that. I will talk with people that come to me and ask me my beliefs. But he said, God put the words in my mouth that day to talk to this young man. And he says, now I see why God put him in my path.
That's right. Now, Mark, that's true success.
That's true success.
So if our listeners are out there and you're beating yourself up today, you don't think you're doing enough, you don't think you're where you ought to be in life at this time, if you are saved by the blood of the Lamb and you are serving a God, the Almighty God, and you're living your life for Him, it don't get any better than that.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Not at all. That's good stuff. As we're with Laura this morning on the Vine Morning Show, we're going to come back and talk more. What are we going to talk about in the 9 o'clock hour?
Well,
Laura?
if you don't mind, Mark, let's focus on what's going to happen in the next 10 days or so.
I think that's very interesting.
Okay.
All right. I think we're going to do that when we come back
All
here in
right.
just a moment. Lincoln Brewster from Real Life Radio, 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine. The best Christian music for you and your family. A song called Made New. Welcome back to the Vine Morning Show on a Monday morning. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel this morning and on Sunday afternoons on TV Channel 15, we welcome you in this morning. Thanks for watching as Lora Greathouse is with us this morning. As we've been talking about, we started off a great topic this morning. And now we're going to go and switch gears a little bit. Still some interesting topics, events that are taking place, Laura.
Yes.
That's coming up that we really need to focus on and pay attention to, don't we?
Yes, we do. And, today is the International Day of Peace. I didn't know there was such a thing.
I did not hear that.
Okay, well, I'm looking at it and have seen it on several different things. Each year, the International Day of Peace is observed around the world on the 21st of September. And it says the General Assembly has declared this is a day devoted to strengthening the ideals of peace, both within and among all nations and people.
Okay.
I just think that's a little bit odd, knowing what's going on in this world. And I keep hearing people talking about peace and security. Have you heard that a lot lately,
I've not
Mark?
heard that.
Okay. Several times here lately, I've been hearing people talking about peace and security. Well, this agreement will give us peace for a certain amount of time, or this will do this and this will do that. And it sends everyone that thinks about peace and safety to 1 Thessalonians 5, where it talks about, while people are saying peace and safety, destruction will come on them suddenly. And that concerns me. It's been, in a lot of ways for America, it's been a pretty quiet time.
Yeah, it has.
And we know as believers that the quiet time is going to end. We know it. We can feel it. Even the people that aren't Christians are like, I don't know, I just feel like something's not right. Something's uneasy. It's unsettling. And it's like we know, we've read the Bible enough to know if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get this. And we've done X, Y, and Z. And some of that for a very, very long time. And we know that out of God's mercy, He's going to send judgment. And some pressure, some godly pressure could produce sorrow, but good. And that's what we want. And so we're all, like I told you off air, Rodney preached a sermon, and he said there was an old, I don't know if it was Abbott and Costello or who it was, but the bunk beds, and every night before bed, the guy on the top bunk would drop one shoe, and then not soon after he dropped the second shoe. And so every single night he couldn't go to sleep until that second shoe finally would fall. But he said one night only one shoe fell, and he's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that second shoe to fall, and it never did. And so he couldn't go to sleep. He couldn't rest. There was an unsettling feeling within him because he was just waiting for that other shoe to drop. And I feel like that's where we're at as Christians. We know there's another shoe to come. When is it? I don't know. I just don't know. But an International Day of Peace is today all around the world. The 23rd, we know that is the Day of Atonement. That is a high holy day. That is a very, very specific time to atone for sins and to be sorry for our sins. And also, we know that Rosh Hashanah was just a few days ago. Last Sunday is when it began. Technically, I don't think they saw the moon that day, so it was postponed for a few hours because, they cannot begin that festival without the sighting of the moon by 2 witnesses. And that's why it's called the day or hour that no man knows. But then you've got 10 days, I guess it is, and the gates of heaven are open.
Mm-hmm.
And on the Day of Atonement, they close. So it's a very symbolic thing. But also, and I wasn't aware of this, but September the 23rd, the Muslims also have a festival called the Feast of Sacrifice. And they, too, believe in sacrificing animals, which I didn't know anything about that. I thought it was kind of odd that it's on the exact same day, but just for our information that there are 2 feasts going on, a Muslim feast and God's feast, a Jewish feast, some people refer to it as. And then you and I spoke off air about the Pope also on the Day of Atonement. The 23rd is what I understood, right?
I believe that's correct.
Mm-hmm.
He's in Havana, Cuba now.
Okay.
And he's coming to the U.S., and he's going to first off come to Washington,
Okay.
then go to Philadelphia, and then to New York.
Okay.
And they're expecting millions of people to see the Pope.
Right.
And they were already, as of last night, I don't think he's coming, and I may be wrong on this, but in Philadelphia, I think it's like 2 to 3 days before his arrival there. They're already closing streets, removing cars out of no-tow zones. They're making no-tow zones. You can't park in certain areas. They were showing highlights of cars being towed away last night, preparing for his arrival due to the estimated crowd that they're expecting.
Wow.
And that's just in Philadelphia.
Oh my.
Can you imagine in Washington what extreme they have to go to, and not only there, but New York City?
Exactly. I cannot imagine. The Pope, the White House on the 23rd, and then addressing Congress on the 24th.
I believe that's
correct. Does that
correct.
sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then on the 25th, he's supposed to address the United Nations. Had you heard that one?
I believe I did hear that, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So there's quite a lot of activity. And I guess that in human history, he has never addressed our United States Congress.
Wow.
That's several different ones are saying that. If that's correct, it sounds correct to me. And it just, and the United Nations, he's going to address them after their 70th session, which I guess is still in progress. It started last week, and I just don't know what has been going on there. I keep trying to find out, but I'm not stumbling onto any news or coming up with what things that they have decided, but I'm sure that we'll all be hearing it soon. And then CERN is supposed to start up on the 23rd and the 24th.
That's at full power, right?
Full power, yes.
Wow.
And this is a big deal, and there's many of them. I don't know if it's true or not, saying the last time that they had it up to full power that it caused an earthquake. I've heard that many times that has been, they put it underground. And why would they have put it underground if there wasn't some fear?
And this is in the Swiss Alps.
Yes, right.
Just outside Geneva, Switzerland.
Right. And there's many, one of the different things that I've looked up, and I've heard this just tons of times, they had this little, nice little advertisement, and it said CERN, the 666 logo, opening the door to the abyss, September 23rd to 24th. That's scary. And we're in the light of illumination, the light, the year of Lucifer is what some of them is calling it, but the year of illumination, that's a little bit odd too. And, speaking of, if you've missed this, we've talked about CERN several times in the past, and Kevin McLean spoke of it too, and I'm so glad that he did, because he's kind of backing up to the things that we've been studying also. And, it was built over a place, an ancient temple of Apollyon, which is just strange in itself that they would build it in that exact spot. And in the front of their building is a statue of Shiva, which is the god of destruction. And their goal, they'll admit it, that we want to open a door, and they're hoping to do that in September, and they've made no bones about it.
Yeah, Kevin even had an audio clip from one of the scientists there, and it was, if you've not heard it, go and listen to that interview. It's very chilling, and stated, we are God, we won't be messed with.
Yes.
Something along that line. It's just spooky enough, and it gave me cold chills the morning I heard it.
Yes, it did. It did. I was on there, and I recorded it on my phone just so I could rewind it a few times and send it to a few people. It's appalling, the times we're living in, Mark, and the things. It's like, oh, my goodness, is this for real? I mean, if it was a movie, it'd be bad enough, but it's for real, and it's happening now, and they've already claimed to have seen some things, and they're hoping to see more. And could this be the book of Revelation? It's possible. It's possible. And then the Tomorrowland Festival, the 25th, 26th, 27th, just the end of this week. And I was reading this. I've seen it before. They have this gigantic machine, like this gigantic computer that has a face on it. And they just cheer, and this face, we are given the keys to unlock the door, and it's almost like a chant or something. It's the spookiest, creepiest thing you have ever heard in your life, Mark.
Where's that taking place at?
This is in Atlanta,
Georgia.
I
was going to ask you, is that the one in Atlanta? Okay.
It is, and it's Tomorrow World, and it's a festival of some sort, and I don't know if they have seminars or concerts, or I don't really know.
I think it's a combination of everything.
You're probably right. So. And it's the most bizarre thing in the world, and it is satanic and spooky. I don't even like watching it because it gives you such a feeling in the pit of your chest, but I feel like I have to, because I need to know these things and inform people, and not to forget that it seems like the Pope is chasing Madonna around all over the world, because she's got this we spoke about this before, this concert, and the name of it is Desecration of the Bride, and like releasing of fallen angels, and we're the bride. What in the world would make you have a concert like that? What in the world would make you want to name it that? I don't know. I don't get it. And then we spoke about Jay-Z and his song about, when the Christians leave, we're going to have some fun. Jesus can't save you. When the Christians leave, we're going to have some fun. It's the craziest thing in the world. And I was listening to a guy, and I have it written down. It's something Green Day, a band named Green Day. And the song is something about wake me up when September's over. And something about 7 years. Have you ever heard that song, Mark?
I've never heard it. I'm a familiar. I've just heard of the group. They're a secular group, but they're more into. I can't think of the music they play, but they're in a secular group, more in the strange world, actually.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, they've got some song, and I just looked up the lyrics to it, and I thought, that's really bizarre. Where are they getting this stuff? And one guy says, they're not reading the Bible. And I'm thinking, well, or are they trying to get into the deep parts of it and scare people, or just be satanic just for the fun of it? Or are they being satanically driven? Are they getting their information from other places? But it's just kind of creepy when they take songs like that. And wake me up when September's over, and it's talking about 7 years, and I don't know, it's just all bizarre. So, and there's more things to come, and more things that are happening this week, and I hope we can...
Yeah, go ahead. If you want to go ahead, let's
right.
go ahead and continue.
Well,
we're good.
Today, I think, is the climatic day to the pilgrimage, the Hajj to Mecca, and Muslims are required to make this trip at least once in their lifetime, to walk around this idol of theirs, I'll say. And we know that, was it the 9th? I think it was maybe September 11th, that the crane was struck by lightning. I didn't know.
In Saudi Arabia.
Yes, in Saudi Arabia, in Mecca. And it was struck by lightning, and they assume that that's what caused this crane to fall. And did you know that crane was owned by the Osama bin Laden group?
I did not know that.
Don't you think that's a little bizarre?
That is very bizarre.
And I think it happened on September 11th. I'll have to look at but it happened right along in there.
Yeah, it was the weekend of,
Okay. I mean, it's very sad. 107 people died, and like 238 got hurt, and it was very, very sad. But the actual day, the day that they're declaring is September the 21st. The Hajj to Mecca, that is today. So for whatever that's worth. Let's see here. What else is happening? Let's see. There's just so many things, and we know that the final blood moon is coming on the 28th. Now, I know that it will be seen over Jerusalem, and I've not checked it out, but somebody said we'll see it here too, around 9 o'clock.
Around 9 o'clock, we'll have to do some research on that.
Yes, we'll have to check on that, but they're saying that we may possibly see that here also, which would be wonderful. It just kind of puts things into perspective. Another thing, Mark, that I have been noticing a lot lately is, and my kids, I really watch what they watch on television.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been 3 shows lately that's just made me almost grab my chest. Oh my goodness. One was Gravity Falls, and this is a cartoon. And it is so sadistic. I'm just, the only reason I let my kids watch it is because I wanted to see what they were going to say next.
Mm-hmm.
They had the triangle, and they were talking about the all-seeing eye, and they were talking about, here's a secret room that Uncle Stan knows nothing about. And they're just touching on things, and their minds have been erased. That was another thing that they said. And the Society of the Blind Eye. Just really creepy things. And then there was a show called Lab Rats. My kids watch Lab Rats all the time. And I'm sure there's parents out there shaking their head right now. Yes, we watch Lab Rats. Cute little show. There was one show where they were all dressed in black, and there was some guy that said that he was going to control them. He was going to implant something in them to where he had control over all of them. Mark.
Oh, wow.
It was bizarre. And they said other things that just like come right out of the book of Revelation. And I'm like, what are these people doing? And I can't tell you how many shows, Spy Kids. You ever heard of Spy Kids?
I have heard of that before, yes.
Oh, my goodness. They're talking about the apocalypse this, and even our news is talking about apocalypse, and the Progressive commercial, the Apocalypse Times, and it's crazy how all this is happening. But yeah, these Spy Kids, and it's funny, whenever they say something about the apocalypse, or we're going to do this or mind control, my kids always turn around and look at me in the kitchen. I'm almost always in the kitchen. They turn around and look at me, and I'm like, yep. You hear that? You know what that is.
And your kids are, how old are they? How's
Lucy's 9, and Blaze is 12.
And they notice this. These young kids are noticing this.
Yes. And they're checking my eyes,
Wow.
and I'm like, that's not good stuff. And they're like, I know it. And, Spy Kids is a pretty cute show, but they're slipping these things in our movies.
Right.
And they're slipping them in the adult movies, too, and making it so just kind of normal. One world government, one world order. And in cartoons, I've heard these things, Mark, and it just makes me just shudder. I'm like, well, and that's what we want to do. We want to desensitize all of you to the mark. We want to desensitize you all to controlling, and I have control, and we're all going to move to the action of one man, and it's happening.
It's happening right now, more than we realize it, and more intensity it's coming at more and more being thrown at us all the time.
Just clobbered with it.
All right. Hey, we're going to come back talk more with you here in just a moment. What do we want to talk about next? What do you want to talk about?
I guess just more of the same.
The same. There's just so much going on that you're not going to hear in the secular world.
Right.
You're not going to hear it. You're only going to hear it on in Christian. Christian radio. You won't hear it in the secular media until something happens.
Yes.
And then it'll be all over the news.
True.
All right.
Great resources and a sneak peek into his life as a husband, father, and leader. The Family Minute with Mark Merrill, helping families love well.
And welcome back. It is the Vine Morning Show. Here we are on this Monday. I'm Mark, along with our good friend Lora Greathouse. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning, Mark.
Just so much going on in our country and our world today, Laura. And a lot of people paying attention to this week. as some life-changing events could take place, Laura. And, according to Scripture, according to a lot of things that are going on,
Yes.
and, it's something that not to take lightly and to pay attention to. We don't know, but it's to be ready. That's what we have to do. Be ready.
That's good. And J.D. Farag, I'm a fan of his. He's a Hawaiian pastor. He has a prophecy update every week. And last week, it was so cute. He said, he says, all I can say today before I get started with my prophecy update is fasten your seatbelts. He says, prophecy years ago used to come once in a while. And he said, then it got to where, it would come once a week or, it was pretty rapid. He says, now it's almost folding in by the hour. He says, quicker than we can even keep up with. And he talks about things that don't make it to the news or very little, and ties in the prophetic meaning, and it's just absolutely amazing. But you know what he said? With all that's happening in the Middle East, he said, Isaiah 17, Psalm 83, Ezekiel 38 and 39, all of that is being set up. He says you couldn't even write a script that would make it better than it is in real, actual life right now. All of those things just zooming together. And, the final blood moon, Mark Biltz was on, just got to catch some of it, on Jim Baker last week. And, he was talking about this final blood moon and what does God have in store for us, and reflecting back to in 1948 and 49, I believe, were the Tetrads, the Holy Nation was regained. And then in 67, 68, the Holy City was regained. And in 2014, 2015, could we see the Holy Temple regained? That's some prophetic buzz that seems to keep going around. Could we see? And that many donations have come in for this third temple, and they have it already. The way I've understood it, they've already done like a dry run per se, to where they could put that thing up in a moment's notice. That is so prophetic. People don't even understand. We are on the brink of something huge. Could we see Israel go to war soon? It's highly likely. Definitely. Our Bible shows us that the enemies, everyone's going to turn against Israel, and all eyes are going to be upon her, and we could wake up to a war with Israel any day of the week.
There's been rockets continuously fired in Israel.
Yes.
I mean, they're always on guard. The alarm is always sounding. The distress signal is always sounding in Israel.
And we don't realize that.
No, you don't hear about it.
No, you don't. And Rabbi Eckstein, and we've spoke about this before, he says almost on a daily basis that somewhere in Israel they're dealing with rockets on a daily basis. And they see such horrible, horrible things, and they show, kids and adults alike. Oh, we would just be outraged. You think we'd put up with that for 1 minute? Oh my goodness. My goodness, what those people are under.
People are. I saw a video not too long ago of this young lady. She's driving to school, driving to college in Israel down the road, and she's narrating that they've been instructed in any time they hear an air raid signal or siren to pull over to the side of the road, get out of your car and take shelter.
Yes.
And one just happened to go off that day as she's driving down the road. She started to panic, trying to find a place to pull over. She did. She jumped out of her car with her video still going. You could hear the air raid sirens in the background. She got under some kind of a pillar, stayed there, and was there for about 10 minutes. And waited for the all-clear signal, went back in her car and continued. And she says this is almost on a daily basis that we have to deal with in our lives in our country.
Wow. That is so amazing to me. And how many of us could, we're driving to work, we're driving to school, whatever, and just pull over for an airstrike, a bomb, and then get back in your car and go on with your day? That's what these people are expected to do.
It's bad enough when we have severe storms. Could you imagine if you had to live with that on a daily basis?
That's right. Absolutely. And Mark, what part does people not understand where God says, I will bless you if you bless my people, and I will curse you. What don't they understand?
No.
And these are some of the most intelligent people around the world, and they don't get it. And it's so incredibly simple. A child could get it, but these educated people do they not believe it? Are they just sloughing it off? Are they just trying to forget about it? Is their hate so high for these people that they're just going to take whatever punishment they can get in order to press it into these people? And we hear this all the time. Death to Israel and death to America. They are the little Satan, and we are the big Satan. And it's like evil, everything is backwards now. It just, as the scriptures say, evil is good, good is evil. And that is happening more with every day that passes. And did you know on that Kim Davis deal? I didn't realize this, but I was told, well, I heard it by a preacher, she wasn't even given bail. You know, and you have all these serial killers and all of these people that have done horrific crimes, and they at least get bail. It's set high, but many of them have bail set at a certain place, but there wasn't any bail set on her.
Didn't they have to go and demand that before a federal judge, or didn't they have to do something to get her release on that?
Yes, eventually. And I think she served 6 days. But the way I understood it, that at the beginning there was no bail. She just had to quit her job or wait for some action.
And usually you take someone that's been involved in a domestic situation and they have to go before a judge and bail is set before they can be released.
Yes,
And in her case, in her defense, she was doing what she thought was the right thing, and they denied it.
Right. And did you know also this same preacher said that she was only 4 years old in Christ? And to take a stand like that and to be an infant, basically, in the Lord, that just even spoke greater volumes to me, knowing that she took a stand and she was so new in Jesus.
Wow. Isn't that
cool.
something?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. All right. Hey, we're going to come back here in a moment.
My Savior, all the day long.
My Story, that is Big Daddy Weave from Real Life Radio 105.5 and 90.9 The Vine. Music and ministry that helps you connect with God. And welcome back. It's the Vine Morning Show on a Monday morning. I'm Mark, along with Laura this morning. Good morning, Laura.
Good morning, Mark.
As we're covering some events that are taking place in our country today and around the world, Laura. A lot of things going on. We, if you don't, if you're not accustomed to watching the news, you might want to kind of start paying attention just to see how things unfold and see what may happen.
Right. And, we were just talking about off air that somewhere around the world there was another big group of fish just thrown up on the sand. Yeah, it was video. They were just, they were coming right out of the ocean, and people were going and just scooping them up in buckets full and stuff. And I can't remember what country that was. I don't think it was in the United States, but it was in a country adjacent to a sea or ocean. Yes.
That all these fish were just flopping up on you're right, on the sand.
Yes.
It was amazing to see the multitude of it.
And, we've talked about this in the past and not, recently, but there is just video after video after video of animals washing up in the sea and birds falling out of the sky. And it's just absolutely baffling the entire world, all of these animals that are dying. And for many of you that have missed the show in the past where we have spoken about this, Hosea 4:3, therefore the land mourns. And Mark, these sinkholes. I just saw another sinkhole. A whole car falls off into the earth just in this pit that just opens up while they're sitting at a stoplight. It's incredible. Therefore, the land mourns, and everyone who lives in it languishes, Hosea says, along with the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky, and also the fish of the sea disappear. God tells us in His Word things that are going to happen. What about, and I didn't look up where it's at, somebody could tell you just off the top of their head, some smarty, the earth shall reel like a drunkard. And don't you know that when we have some of these earthquakes, it's shifting us.
Mm-hmm.
It's shifting our entire world.
There is focus on Yellowstone National Park.
Yes, that's right.
And Brother Mark Odell was telling this story on last Tuesday that he had a friend that was out in Yellowstone Park that was camping, and his plans were to sleep on the ground, but the ground was too hot for him to even sleep on because it felt like an oven.
Yes.
And, studies have shown that Yellowstone has an active volcano under it, and if it goes, major destruction.
Right. And I saw, now this was just a video, but they had closed off certain parts of it, and one zoomed in with their camera, and there was a hole in the asphalt and steam coming up from it. It almost looked like it was boiling underneath there. It was really bizarre. And, I've seen video after video of animals moving away. And we know we can watch animals. They have an extra sense about them.
Exactly.
And yes, if Yellowstone goes, we may even see ashes as far as in Illinois, which would be devastating.
Look at all the wildfires out in California.
Oh,
Butte
yes.
County, California. Homes destroyed, land destroyed, and people displaced out of homes. And I'm not so sure that they've got those that contained yet or under control. They may have it, but it was really running rampant over this last weekend, or over earlier last week or late last week.
Yes, and in certain parts, there was one news clip that said it had tripled overnight, and there was one place where 40 acres had gone to 50,000 just in a snap, and it's unbelievable what they're living with over there.
Tsunami warnings out for Southern California, advisories after the earthquake in Chile with almost 20 aftershocks. Very powerful. Even islands of Hawaii was advised of a tsunami warning or an advisory.
And then we've got that, is it Cascadian Fault along the northwest up Oregon, Utah.
I believe that's correct,
it's
yes.
Very serious. Even Shepard Smith, that's the one there, he said, I would consider moving. Seriously, folks, I would consider moving, is what he said. And we're just waiting. It's almost like we're just waiting for something like this to happen, and because we know we deserve it.
It's God's judgment on our country.
Absolutely.
For what has transpired.
Yes, all of the things that are just mounting up, and we are being so distracted by this presidential campaign, and that's one thing I wanted to throw in. Be careful not to be distracted by this circus. Many things that needs to be talked about are not getting talked about because that's all that we've got to look at.
That is ever so true, Laura. Lora Greathouse with us this morning here on the Vine Morning Show.